Recording in progress.
Councillor Kelly, Ward 4, Councillor Damobed, Ward 5, and Vice Chair of the committee, Councillor Getz. Ward 6 is Lisa Gordon. Ward 7, Becky Grossman online. She just was here. I guess she's somewhere else now. Oh, she's driving her way in. Okay. She'll be here soon. And then I'm David Kalis from Ward 8. We have a good agenda, a solid agenda, and so let's get right to it. First item is item 114-26, Eversource petition for a grant of location on Smith Avenue. Eversource Energy petitioning for a grant of location for one pole located on the east side of Smith Avenue, approximately 556 feet southwest of Cleveland Street, to be relocated to approximately 16 feet southwest of its current location. Okay, Eversource, do we have Joanne Callender on the line? And before she starts speaking, let me also make sure I introduce that we have our Commissioner Sullivan from DPW and Deputy Commissioner McDonald. And our clerk, Lisa Pennell. Oh, we have City Engineer John Daglian as well. Great. Thank you. Oh, City Engineer Alfredo Vargas is here too. Thank you. Okay, so Joanne, are you here?
I believe Joanne is online.
Joanne Callender, do you hear me? Joanne, you there? Councilor Albright.
So I don't know if she's here or not, but this is apparently to underground utilities coming to 42 Smith Street, is it Smith Ave, I guess it is. So I don't know if she's here or not, but it seems like a good thing to do to underground the utilities.
Yeah.
This is Joanne Callender. I just got volume.
Excellent.
Were you looking for me?
We can, yes. So Joanne, we're talking about item 114-26, the petition for a grant of location on Smith Avenue. If you could just outline that for us, and then we'll take some questions.
Okay, sure. So Eversource is seeking a grant of location to relocate pole 402 over 5 at 42 Smith Avenue. A new home is currently under construction, and the owner would like to move the pole to the other side of the driveway for his landscaping needs. Thank you.
Letter says.
Okay. So we'll take questions now. Councilor Albright.
Now I have to ask my question. The cover letter says it's for undergrounding service. Are you undergrounding the service from the pole to the house?
We are.
Ah, okay. So that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? All right, what I'd like to do now is open the public hearing. Do I need a motion for that?
Sure.
Yeah, someone can. Okay, Councilor Getz motions to open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item?
Ward 3. This Ward-
Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to close public hearing? All right, Counselor Kelly closes the public hearing. The public hearing is closed. And let's have the committee vote on this item. Or any other comments first? Okay. 114-26, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 They don't have a motion to approve. No, shouldn't somebody make a motion to
Oh,
approve?
yeah, somebody make a motion. Counselor Kelly, please,
Yeah, go ahead.
just so we could hear.
Well, I think it's in my ward. I'm not totally clear on all the implications of moving the pole and undergrounding, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve from Counselor Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. Okay, the next item is 122-26. National Grid petition for a grant of location on Clarendon Street. National Grid petitioning for a grant of location to install and maintain gas main in Clarendon Street as follows due to water work by the city of Newton. 400 feet of 6-inch plastic gas main to replace 145 feet of 4-inch bare steel and 255 feet of 4-inch cast iron in Clarendon Street from Norwood Avenue to number 30 Clarendon Street, which is north side of Laundry Brook Culvert. 290 feet of 6-inch plastic gas main to replace 195 feet of 4-inch cast iron and 95 feet of 4-inch plastic in Clarendon Street from number 34 Clarendon Street, which is the south side of Laundry Brook Culvert, to Cabot Street. All right. Do we have the National Grid representative, Mary Mulroney, or manager Tammy Saporito? Oh, we do. Live.
I have it in color.
What, and can you introduce yourself?
Oh, press the button. There you go.
So, oh, now it's on, thank you. My name is Mary Mulroney. I'm here on behalf of National Grid to apply for a grant of location for, in request to prevent, it's pre-encroachment for City of Newton Water Department. Oh, sorry. Usually people tell me to be quiet. We would like to request to relay approximately 145 feet of 4-inch bare steel dating back to 1944, 250 feet, 55 feet of 4-inch cast iron dating back to 1911 and 1914, and Clarendon Street from Norwood Ave to Clarendon Street on the north side of the Laundry Brook Culvert with 400 feet of 4-inch plastic gas main. Then National Grid would like to install to replace 190 feet of 4-inch cast iron dating back to 1911 and 1914 and 95 feet of 4-inch plastic from 2007 and 2014 in Clarendon Street from 34 Clarendon to the south side of Laundry Brook Culvert to Cabot Street with 290 feet of 6-inch plastic gas main.
Thank you, Ms. Mulroney. All right, let's start in the committee. Any questions on this item? Councillor Albright.
Could you explain why you're replacing this cast iron pipe?
This cast iron pipe is being replaced as a pre-encroachment because the city of Newton has contacted, we discuss meetings, we have monthly meetings with them, and they're putting in a water main.
Oh.
And if they install the water main over our gas main, it'll be an encroachment.
Oh.
And that's not allowed by the state, by the DPU. So they proactively, and we're proactively working together with the municipalities to move the main so they can do their work. And that's why we're here for the grant.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions right now? Okay, no, seeing no questions, is there a motion again to open the public hearing? Councillor Albright.
I'll move that we open the public hearing.
Excellent, thank you. So Councillor Albright has moved to open the public hearing, so the public hearing is now open. Is there anybody from the public who wants to speak on this item? see Peter Barrere. Peter, Mr. Barrere, why don't you unmute and give us your name and address and your comments.
Thank you. It's Peter Barrow, 60 Endicott Street. Um, I have several comments. One is there's a customarily the gas company provides answers to customary Public Facilities Committee questions about the pipe condition, the leaks, and other information. I think Councilor Leary sent a note to everyone here asking the same question. So I didn't see that, so I think we're lacking that information. Another is that we track the leaks that is submitted to the DPU by National Grid. There are no leaks on the street, and the Clarendon Street had also not been identified as a priority pipe. So I'm wondering if there isn't another solution that for DPW to place its new pipe without requiring the gas company to install new pipe, which is, it's not free. All the ratepayers would pay for it. Generally, it costs $750 a foot. This is 800 feet. So the cost to ratepayers is about $600,000. And I would ask that you look into an alternative location for the new water pipe so that this gas pipe does not have to be replaced.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrere. Actually, Ms. Mulroney, do you have answers to any of those questions?
The questions that Mr. Barrows asked was, he answered them. There are no leaks on the street. This is a request by the City of Newton Water Department that we cooperate and move our gas main. And the age of the pipe, he was asking about the condition of the pipe. Pipe is from 1911 and 1914. That there's no leaks, but it's kind of self-explanatory in the petition.
Okay. And are there any alternatives to doing exactly what you're thinking? Did you think through any ideas?
This is National Grid cooperating with the City of Newton.
Okay.
The City of Newton has the answer.
And
Right.
if I may, yeah, that's a question for the DPW.
Oh, John Daglian. Okay, John, I see your hand is raised. Mr. Daglian, could you answer that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So our water main is a 6-inch main that's over 100 years old, and internally it would have a lot of calcification. So the water main has to be replaced. It's on the CIP to be done as soon as this gas main is replaced. Our water main is about 2 feet, 2.5 feet maximum from the existing main. So we need that gas line to be relocated. So we have a new corridor to replace the existing water main in our same location, but with a bigger pipe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daglian.
If I
Any,
may,
oh,
if
Mr.
I
Barrera, you
may,
have another question?
yes, if instead of replacing two pipes, seems to me that the water main could be located, with another route in the street without being so close to the gas main, the new location, and it would be a less cost to the taxpayers in Newton and to the ratepayers of the gas company if we only see one pipe replaced rather than two.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barrera. Mr. Daglian, is that an idea or something that you thought about? Is that an option?
Yeah, it's really not an option because the road, first of all, is very narrow. And then we have a sewer line that's running down right down the middle of the street. And then we have all the drainage structures in the way, plus the brook and the culvert itself. There's really no real estate to do it other than moving the gas pipe away from our main, giving us a clear corridor to replace our water main.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other people that want to speak on this public hearing? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Okay, so moved. by Counselor Albright. Counselor Albright?
For the sake of discussion, I'll move approval. It doesn't seem like there's another place to put the water main. And if the water main is replaced, the gas line has to be replaced. So I'm going to move approval.
Okay, so let me just officially say the public hearing is closed. And there is now a motion for approval on this item. Any discussion, though? Counselor Damubed?
I guess I'm just wondering if retirement of the line has been studied as an alternative to reconstruction, or if that's feasible or not. Instead of building a whole new line and removing one, is it possible to just retire this one?
So you'd have to replace it anyway? If you're
Well,
saying,
I guess this is very short term. We need this done now, so yeah.
Counselor Albright?
Well, perhaps you could, do you have information on how this particular pipe relates to the system of piping around it and whether, I mean, I've learned a lot about this from National Grid, that you can't pluck a pipe out of the middle of a system in a neighborhood and make the rest of it work. So I don't know where this pipe is in relation to the rest of your system. Is it an end of the line kind of a pipe?
No,
No.
it feeds off of like Norwood Street and Cabot. So they all feed together. Pardon?
Could you just say that again closer to the
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry. The gas coming down Clarendon ties into and connects to Cabot and Norwood. So we just can't take that out. It continues and then goes on to another street. Like it's all within the system. Plus you'd have to have all the residents. I mean, we can't just take gas away from people.
Right. I think it's a good question, Councillor Damabed, to ask. In every grant of location for a pipe, have they thought about ending the usefulness of the pipe? So I think that's a good thing that we could ask as another typical question.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments? Okay, Counselor Kelly? Oh, Ginny Fairley. All right. Let's hear from Ginny.
She's still muted.
Is she still muted? Yeah.
Ms. Pennell, is there any way that you could?
Oh,
there you
Ginny
go.
Fairley,
She-
there you go. You can speak now.
Oh, okay, wow.
Can you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, 12 Clarendon Street,
All right, thank you.
Newtonville, Massachusetts. I'm a homeowner on this street. I guess there's no other neighbors here. I had trouble getting my hand raised and speaking. I also wonder about all of this and why there's two pipes. And I'd like to know if there's something that mitigated all of this all of a sudden. Because there was some activity at the other end of the street where the street was dug up twice now. And I'm just curious how this, I know John said it was on the CIP, et cetera, but I am curious about that, what's mitigating this, and also what time frame is this, because you're tackling a very small street with only, almost a dead end street, but not quite, but we have school buses that go down the street. We have parking only on one side, it's so narrow. And I'm just curious how this is all going to happen without owners or residents getting in and out of their own driveway or their own street.
Thank you, Ms. Fairley.
Thank you.
Mr. Daglian, is there any comment that you could make? Ms. Sullivan, maybe?
Sure, the water main replacement is part of the capital improvement plan for our water main improvements that has been going on for the past 10 years. Clarendon Street is scheduled for replacement in 2027 and has been for a number of years.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so,
Is that the only time it's going to be in another year or so?
National Grid will need to replace their gas main before we can go in and replace the water main, so 2027 it is.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, there is a motion from Counselor Albright to approve. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes unanimously.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I'm just making sure, I'm getting Counselor Bixby to come in, and we're looking for Mr. Rice as well. So we have a minute or so for the next item. Okay, so the next item is 116-26, requesting requesting a discussion on the status of the Newton Highlands Working Group, requesting a discussion on the status of the Newton Highlands Working Group and their findings and recommendations. And we'll have Chief of Community Services, John Rice, Commissioner of Public Works, Shauna Sullivan, and Counselor Bixby. And for the committee, this is a discussion, but just so I set the tone, at the end of the discussion, I know the administration is looking for a straw vote to see what we're thinking. And and then a motion to hold probably. So I just wanted you to know that in advance. All right, so Mr. Rice, will you present? Oh, Martha, Counselor Bixby. All right, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me into your committee today. So I'll just kick things off here with a little bit of background for those of you who are new to the council and for those of you who were on the council last term may recall. Last fall, the council suggested the formation of a working group to make a recommendation on how to proceed with the Newton Highlands Enhancement Project. This working group followed several years of public presentations about this project, and we met approximately every other week since the start of this calendar year. And we are here, and we're joined by some members of the working group as well to report on our recommendations. The working group recommends that we do proceed with the project in multiple phases, with many questions still to be answered in later phases. I'm here to kick off discussions on the first phase, near-term safety improvements, which were developed through this working group effort. The working group met several times to evaluate conditions in the village center and identify these short-term implementable safety improvements. Locations included in this presentation represent highest priority areas identified through this process, and the working group was fully supportive of advancing these improvements. It is important, again, to recognize that this is the first phase of work. The working group will continue to meet to develop additional recommendations, including bicycle accommodations, pedestrian enhancements, and broader corridor and village center redesign concepts. And we ask for all of your support and engagement in that those later phases of work. Am I still coming through? Okay. However, these near-term improvements are intended to address immediate safety needs and can be incorporated into this larger long-term capital project as that work advances. Once design is complete for these near-term safety interventions, we will return to the City Council with a request to fund the improvements and advance them to construction. So tonight, and Mr. Rice will go through these a little bit more. We are hoping to get this committee's sense and support for moving ahead with some next steps on this. So
Thank you, Counselor
Thank you.
Bixby. All right, let's go to Mr. Rice.
I'd like to thank you very much. It's interesting being back here at City Council again for me after 10 years. I'd like to thank a number of people with Commissioner Sullivan for support for the working group, as I was chair of the working group, and the consultant who is supporting us in this endeavor. I'd like to also thank Councilor Bixby, who was on the working group and spent a significant amount of time. And I also like to thank from the 2025 term, both Councilor Bixby and Councilor Albright, who basically came up with the idea of having the working group, so that way we can evaluate this. And so thank you very much for this. The working group, I was the chair of the working group. We have Serge Nedeljkovic, who is in the room. We had Councilor Bixby, we had Carl O'Hara representing the businesses, and we had former Ward 6 Councilor Alan Lebowitz. And we had a number of meetings. We wanted to make sure that we were back in front of public facilities at the end of March, beginning April. And we basically accomplished our goal of coming up with an interim solution. As Councilor Bixby has acknowledged, we evaluated, we looked at the project and we said, right now the administration does not have if the full project was funded, it would be a $15 million project. And I'm not sure if people remember that, originally there was money for ARPA for the design side of this. But the $15 million was part of the override budget that failed. So basically even though we were working on the design side, there was still not money identified. So one of the first discussions within the working group is, how do we break this into sections? And as the Councilor Bixby has acknowledged, we decided to focus on safety improvements in the Highlands that we can do short term, like in 2027, and then at the same time not stopping the full project. Basically looking at these smaller safety improvements and how they drop into the fuller project. So we'll go through the presentation, but it's a little over $3 million to do these safety improvements. But the way it's set up is each safety improvement would fit into, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, it would fit into the whole puzzle. And so if we did get future funding, it could be broken into sections of different streets, so that way we can get to the fuller project. But in the interim, until fuller funding is found, there will be significant safety improvements and accessibility improvements in the Highlands that people have been talking about. And the discussion on this project has been going on for three and a half years. So I think the idea that we're going to work together and try to make Newton Highlands a much safer, accessible location is going to be good for the community. So the first slide encompasses the primary scope of work, which from the very beginning, Lincoln Street to Walnut Street was the key part of this whole Newton Highlands renovation project. Get the glasses. The goal is to improve sidewalks, but provide thriving community spaces, beautify with arts, benches, lighting, historic markers, landscaping, and also to activate and enhance infrastructure, including best management practices for stormwater mitigation, phosphorus reduction, and sustainability. So, we discussed intersection by intersection through this whole concept, and we came up with the 4 intersections and also one additional thing as well for lighting. So we have the intersection of Lincoln and Bowden. We have the intersection of Lincoln and Hartford. We have the intersection of Walnut and Station, and we have the intersection of Walnut and Floral Street, and about different solutions for each. So on the next slide is the existing conditions about Lincoln Street and Bowden, which is at the Hyde Playground with Bowden Street and Lincoln Street. A couple of things have happened. As Barbara Darnell from the Highland Area Council can attest, there's been a number of accidents at that intersection. There was even a pedestrian hit at that intersection. So we decided that was one of the significant improvements we needed to make. So the next slide, it talks about what we were trying to accomplish, about making the crosswalk shorter, similar to what happened in Newtonville, having bump outs to make everything shorter, but also having a raised table to slow everyone down. This is a straightaway in Newton Highlands where people usually pick up speed. So even if there's a police directed patrol in that area, there's still significant amount of speeding along that street, especially on the straightaway. One of the reasons we viewed this as a significant impact is also the Hyde Community Center has been known for having Friday night concerts for the last 19 years. And there's a significant amount of people who show up every Friday night for June, July, and August, and part of September. So you're having anywhere from 200 to 400 people on a typical Friday night, and a significant amount of people cross at that crosswalk. So we're also talking about having RRFB with a flashing light on the crosswalk. So that way the people who are going to Hyde Playground, whether to go with their families and use the kids' play area or to go to the bandstand, we figured this is an important intersection to take care of safety. The next street we looked at, which is also a high priority for the working group, was the intersection of Lincoln Street at Hartford Street. I'm not sure if people understand this intersection, but for people who know the Highlands, it is a very wide intersection on Hartford Street, and it is known to be a U-turn haven for anyone coming down Lincoln Street. There's usually a no U-turn sign that people go around and knock the no U-turn sign while they do the U-turn. And Newton police have had directed patrols where they have sat there only 10 or 15 minutes and they will pull 3 or 4 people over. So that just the cars going through that intersection has made significant impact because it's such a long crosswalk, and also because it's such a large entrance to that street, it has become a significant safety issue. And that's the existing condition. So there's a number of things we're going to be trying to do here. With the Rodney Barker Square, which is on the corner of that intersection, we're going to be talking about Rodney Barker section in a street. Intersection in a little bit, but that area we talked about expanding Rodney Barker Square, which would make the intersection there and the crosswalk significantly smaller. We're also talking about putting an RRFB in that intersection as well for that crosswalk, because there's a significant amount of crossing from the parking lot in Newton Highlands across Rodney Barker Square and across that intersection. This is going to have significant safety improvements for that intersection, and I'll kind of talk about Rodney Barker Square in a little bit. If everyone knows, Rodney, was a former city councilor, former school committee member, and he, with the city council a number of years ago, made this Rodney Barker Square. However, there's a significant problems with Rodney Barker Square. But a lot of the improvements in the Highlands were done in the 1970s. But the Rodney Barker Square is a brick. It's made up of bricks, and the bricks have been been popping up because of tree roots, because of other things. It's been needing for many years to have it as a flat surface with people with especially mobility issues because there's a number of people in Hyde housing that are all in wheelchairs that have a hard time getting through this because of the bricks. And what ends up happening is, as bricks keep popping out of it, we put asphalt in for the city to fill up these patches. But basically this area is a center of Newton Highlands, and by having the improvements there, it's going to have a significant positive impact on Newton Highlands. On the next slide is the concept plan. We're talking about planting, and one of the things the working group would like to do is actually start meeting with the community to get feedback about building Rodney Barker Square. Where do the trees go? as we're putting porous pavement in different places. We're talking about aligning with the geometry, and we're also looking at putting some green buffers, and also making sure that we have everything done for drainage as well. So there's going to be significant amount of impact in this section, which is the center of the Highlands. And it's a gathering spot for many activities and events during like Village Day and all the other Newton Highlands activities. And expanding it and making it much safer for mobility and safer for pedestrians. But what it also does, it creates that Hartford Street intersection much smaller. So consequently, it's going to make a safer intersection so people can't, with the intersection at Hartford being so wide, right now people come off of Lincoln Street at a high speed, hit Hartford Street, trying to get to Route 9 because that's where Waze is bringing them. And it creates a high-speed intersection at that point that as we do this safety work, it will make a significant positive impact. Now, there's a number of slides we have here about green infrastructure and about the bioretention areas and connected plantings and tree trenches. And so what I want to say about that is the working group really wants to get feedback from the Newton Highlands community to get what should be the result, what should the trees, how should the green space be? And whenever the commissioner has a community meeting about Newton Highlands renovations, there's usually a large turnout. And we definitely think there's going to be having a large turnout of people giving their feedback about what Rodney Barker Square should do and how it should look and how it should be used, both because it has a significant impact on all the restaurants about table seating and benches and everything else where people get their food and end up staying there, and whether there's lighting in the trees or how the configuration is. So we don't have a solution for that yet. However, we're going to be working with the community to come up with a solution as the working group continues working on different Newton Highlands projects. Now we move on to Walnut Street. And so the first one we have is Walnut Street at Floral Street. The existing conditions, but as people know, that this is also a street where there's significant speed. There's a significant amount of traffic going into O'Hara's restaurant at that intersection. But there's been people who have been hit in the crosswalk there. But there's a lot of cars moving in many different directions, and it has had some significant safety issues with the community. So the Walnut Street, the Floral Street, Walnut Street intersection, as you'd see, we're talking about bump outs, we're talking about a shorter crosswalk to get across Walnut Street. We're talking about islands to slow people down as people are trying to get to the lights at Lincoln Street. It also makes the Floral Street intersection and the Walnut Street intersection much safer for the community, especially with the amount of usage in this area. And we're also talking about putting another RRFB in that location as well, just to notify people, because a lot of times people are coming off a Center Street intersection and coming there at a high speed to hit that intersection, and we're trying to make it much safer. We also have the Walnut Street at Station Ave intersection. That intersection is the center of people going on the Newton Highlands MBTA station. As you can see, it's a wide street at Station Ave. And we're talking about putting bump outs to making that intersection much smaller. Every decision hasn't, meaning there's a lot of community support about different directions on phase 2. And what the working group decided to do was, we're probably 80% there. There's some questions about right-hand turn lanes off Lincoln Street, left-hand turn lanes off Walnut Street, about different things in that area. So the working group was saying, until we get closer to identifying the funding, and if this project does get broken up into smaller sections, we may not be dealing with this for a number of years. So instead of going through a whole community process of fighting over that last 10 to 20%, we decided to say, let's focus on the things we can do now. And then we'll come back to this as we go through the whole phase 2 implementation. There's also discussions about bike lanes and when it comes to painted bike lanes around this area. We were also had many discussions about parking. We had discussions about the right-hand turn lane a number of times with it coming off Lincoln Street and how that impacts traffic on Lincoln Street and Walnut Street. And the final thing we discussed was really with its street lighting in the village center. If we make the impacts on Rodney Barker Square, with it, everyone has for many years, from all the businesses and a lot of the users of the Highlands and residents have said the lighting in the Highlands is really bad. And it's once you hit night, it just does not support bringing with the economic development of all these businesses and how it impacts the neighbors and all the members of the Highlands community. So we added in just on Lincoln Street to making some significant lighting changes that would have a positive impact on the community. But we still believe that's a safety implement because there's a lot of foot traffic going into restaurants. There's a lot of foot traffic going into a lot of the stores at night. And we think that this would both enhance the Highlands, but at the same time enhance the safety of residents in the Highlands. So getting to cost, the Lincoln and Bowden Street intersection, the consultant has a cost of $425,000. The intersection of Lincoln and Hartford Street is $600,000. The Rodney Barker Square, where we rip it all out and start from scratch, is $850,000. And Walnut Street at Floro is $625,000, that intersection, and Walnut and Station is $135,000. The street lighting for this would be $750,000, with a total budget for all the safety improvements of the Highlands, which is $3,385,000. The working group did work together to try to prioritize if this was going to be if these safety improvements are going to be built in over a number of years, which would be the priority. It went back and forth whether Hartford Street would be the priority or Bowden Street would be the priority, but the Lincoln Street intersections with the most dangerous intersections for the Newton Highlands residents. However, since we went back and forth before the last meeting, we did talk to CFO Maureen Lemieux, and we talked to the mayor, and instead of trying to break this into a 2 to 3 year project, the concept, because it impacts safety of people, but the concept is to bond this project at $3,385,000. So basically, once we get to construction documents and we get to the point of getting all the exact numbers for this, if we bonded basically, because we've been talking about this for 3 years, we can make some significant enhancements to Newton Highlands, and it could be started in 2027 and hopefully finished in 2027. So that's my presentation. But a lot of people put a lot of work into the working group, both on the administration side and on the community side. And I think people normally you don't have with a working group, which is normally just within city staff and residents. But we open the working group up meetings to the community so people can be there. And even though we weren't running public hearings, we were taking comments from people because everyone had a lot of viewpoints over the last 3 years. So that's the presentation for this section of the working group. And also with it, the working group is not going to end. We still have a number of things. There's some questions about bicycle safety. There's some questions about how Rodney Barker Square will be. So the working group will be ongoing, and at the same time, we're going to be working with the consultant. One of the key things, as we said before, is that we're doing engineering for these intersections, but the engineering also ties into the master plan. So the master plan is not ending. If the funding happens, we could do it in certain sections. So thank you very much for the time and public facilities, and I appreciate all the work that City Council has done with this committee to make this project successful.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. That was great. All right, let's take questions on the whole concept. So Councillor Albright and then Kelly.
I just want to start by saying I'm just delighted that the community has worked so hard to come through with a plan that makes sense for the Highlands. And it just felt badly that we would throw this away, and it seems like you've come out with a good, I hope everybody is working, it sounds like you're all working together.
Yeah, all working together.
And so that's very exciting and wonderful for the community. My question is, so the bond for 3.8 million, is that a done deal that will happen?
But the mayor has said, but well, this has to come through a full vote of public facilities. Once we get to construction documents, exactly funding, once that hits city council and PF, but this committee has to approve it in full city council. But the mayor had what? And I forgot, I was on the finance committee for 10 years as well. And the finance committee, that once that happens, but the reason, the whole project will be bonded. The mayor has made that
Well,
commitment.
that's fabulous
Yeah.
because, you know, that Newton, West Newton, Newtonville, Auburndale, they've had their chance, and now Newton Islands is having its chance, and I think that's fabulous. I'm 100% with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Albright.
Counselor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councillor Albright. I'm really happy to see the progress and collaboration between staff and residents on this working group. And it really makes sense to me that you're breaking it down into phases and that you're addressing like the immediate safety ones first. I have some kind of very specific questions, just remembering the previous plan as it was presented, and I want to be sure I understood what John Rice said clearly. So through the chair, whether it's John Rice or Councillor Bixby, just clarify a couple questions I had. The raised sidewalks on Lincoln Street, not part of this phase?
No.
Right, good. Are there any changes in the street parking as a result of phase one?
No, there's no negative, or there's not adding parking, it's not taking parking away.
No changes at all yet? The bus lanes on Walnut Street, not part of this project?
That's all part of phase 2 of the project,
And the
yes.
right at Lincoln on Walnut later, it'll all come up. So my only other question on this one was, I think I heard and saw you say that the plan is to replace the bricks, which are difficult surface.
Yes.
And I saw in the plan that you're calling it out as porous paving to replace the bricks?
We would like to see that. It is not set in stone yet. We need to get community buy-in. We haven't reached that point, so it's yet to be determined.
I ask because that is an ongoing challenge and dilemma before the city council and the land use committee and John Daglian and the DPW. So I want to be sure that he's part of this because he says there's really nothing that is technically a porous surface. And I want us to start to be clear and consistent between different committees and different plans on what we're talking about with that. So that's just pay attention to that when you start to spec what that material is going to be.
We already are. We would not be going with the traditional pavers.
Well, let us know what you think is porous. I will be very interested in that too. Thanks. That's all I have for now.
Great point. Thank you. Counselor Getz?
I'm incredibly supportive of this, you know, in terms of moving and being segmented or, you know, put into phase one and phase two. But I also want to shout out the Newton Highlands Area Council because I think that they've been on this for quite a while, you know, in terms of, you know, working through the council itself, in terms of being you know, just diligent about, you know, bringing the community and highlighting the, you know, we need to really have the community talk about, you know, what is best for the specific area of Newton Highlands. I, you know, had a quick question, just even in terms of the, you know, just the phasing that we will bond the 3.5 million. But I also, in reading the notes, there was an opportunity with the complete streets, and it's not in front of me right now, but there was, you know, going for a grant. and it was like $1 to $4 million, specifically, that was the window of what you were eligible for. So is that going to be, sort of sought first in terms of the 850 for the improvements that you were presenting tonight, but even more, just even in terms of much more work in that one zone that would be eligible for the 1.4. I assume that that would be a phase two, and the 850,000 now would be to get it to a certain level, but there would be another layer of potential funding source for that work in phase two. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, Councilor Getz, thank you very much. And also thank you for highlighting the Highland Area Council. As people could attest, there has been meetings about this project for the last 3.5 years, once a month on Thursday nights, with it for many, many years. And there's been a lot of community input and a lot of community feedback to the area council for making this happen. Yes, the way with it, we set this project up is, even when we're going to bond the money to make these safety improvements, we also have Commissioner Sullivan, who's also going to be looking for fundraising. And so because we broke this program, this renovation into sections, so what happens, let's say we get a 1.5 or $2 million with it in a grant, we can look at the different pieces between the safety improvements. And as Surgeon Delkwich was talking about in the working group, so we could do one section, and then let's say in another year or two we find another. Not that we're finding money, but then we get another grant or something else. So we can eventually build our way to the bigger project, and then either this working group or another working group would kind of make the final decisions on the things that still haven't been resolved on Lincoln Street and Walnut Street, and we can get to that final spot.
Okay. I actually found it. It's the fully integrated application, in terms of being eligible, and the window that was the $1 to $4 million.
Yeah.
All right. The other question I had was specifically about undergrounding utilities.
Yes.
Because I know that, right now, in terms of the appropriation, the ARPA dollars, it was 600,000 has already been spent. There's another 400,000 left. So that then what we want to do potentially with that other 400,000 is to do a preliminary study, in terms of whether or not it's even feasible. So I didn't know, whether or not that would be rolled in now in terms of approval, because I think that that's very much something that we need to consider. But this preliminary study would allow the assessment so that we can assess whether or not the current geography and the placement of utilities would be, but that needs to be in place. So I sort of feel as if we need to do that work now. And I don't know, whether or not that would be considered part of phase two, or whether or not that appropriation for that study now of the 40,000 needs to be called out now.
But yes, the full contract hasn't been, but the full contract for the funding from what has been done up until this point. We're also working on with Commissioner Sullivan to make sure that complete engineering is done for the intersections, but also making sure that the engineering ties together. And on with the undergrounding, there was a discussion within the working group not to fund with it because it could be a much significant amount of money. However, but potentially do a $40,000 from feasibility to see how much with it, because there's been a lot of discussion about how much is this and how much is that. Could the poles be moved behind the stores on Lincoln Street? With it, how much the dollar amount could be. So the concept was if money, and I have to ask Commissioner Sullivan on this, whether any can $40,000, if it hasn't been used, be used on a feasibility study? And she's nodding in affirmative to me. And I think the Highlands has been talking about many, many years in many, many meetings about undergrounding and the support of it. And I think this $40,000 would have a significant impact by actually coming back with dollar amount and a real plan and solutions. Because a lot of times we've been talking to different groups, but we don't know how it's going to impact Newton Highlands. And I think by spending this money, we'll have a much better idea.
Great.
So I'm answering all your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Getz. Any other questions? Counselor Gordon?
First, I just want to mention that my colleague Sean Roach wanted me to mention that he is very much on board with the Highlands Working Group's recommendations, so I wanted to impart that. I'm a little confused on how much money is left from the original funds and what's going to the consultants and what's left after what's going to the rest of the consultants.
The remaining funds will be to develop final design for the proposed 4 intersections and Rodney Barker Square. There's approximately $350,000 left, I believe.
And that's going to the consultants.
It is going to the consultants for design.
And is there the ability to add 1 or 2 of these RRFBs before you go ahead and bond, and certainly in the high?
So we did commit to adding an RFB at Bowdoin and Lincoln Street this summer, and we have funding for that.
Okay, that's great. And then I'm wondering about opening up this group to more people. I understand that, and I want to thank everyone who has been on this, because I know it's been a lot of work to get us here, and it is really exciting. But I do think that we're missing some stakeholders in these meetings, and especially I know there's one person who was assigned who never made any of the meetings. Totally understand that, but I'm wondering what you're sort of talking about, maybe this group will continue, or maybe there'll be another group. Is there the ability to expand it? So I know when we did the Newton Center Task Force, at one point, we opened it up to anybody who was interested in being on the group. And I would just urge the group that maybe more than 4 people would be helpful.
We have to figure out more than one microphone here. With it, basically, and I think Councilor Bixby can talk about this. I believe this working group was set up both by the City Council in 2025, but also appointments by the City Council and the Mayor's Office. So it's really, meaning it's not within the jurisdiction of the working group. So I think both City Council and the Mayor's Office have to work together and expand a working group. Whether this working group expands and goes into the next steps, or whether this, with the working group sunsets and another working group gets created. So with it, we're waiting with it. I have some input when it comes to the Mayor's Office, but I'm sure that with the City Council will have a lot of feedback about this as well.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's up to the Mayor's Office and the City Council, and
Exactly.
certainly pretty straightforward.
Yep.
And I wanted to echo Raina's comments about the area council. It was actually their idea to come up with an ask for a task force while they were positing what to do here. And they really struggled because not everybody agreed on how to move forward with this. So I think it's a pretty impressive outcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Gordon.
And
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me just make the comment, and I think we had a discussion with Councilor Bixby about what actually is going to happen after everyone finishes speaking tonight. Is, you know, we don't have final plans, we don't have final dollar amounts. So I think the scenario is similar to some other things about having, with it, you know, feedback from the Public Facilities Committee as a straw vote. Should we keep progressing? Because this committee was basically set up, this task force was working group was set up to say, should we stop at this point or should we keep on going? And no matter how we set up the future part of the working group, whether we should keep evolving this part of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Counselor Grossman, and let me set the record straight that Counselor Grossman was here the whole meeting, online and in person, about 40 minutes ago, and I failed to announce her. And then Counselor Leary has just joined us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a voice of support to how things are progressing. And overall, I think it is very logical and reasonable, and the prioritization that the working group has landed on makes a lot of sense to me. The financial picture looked surprisingly light to me. I'd be surprised if it was quite that reasonable in the end, particularly given some recent experiences I've had with just, you know, one intersection. But maybe if we're able to do all four together, there will be some savings as a part of that. I guess I wouldn't call it hesitation because I have sort of gotten used to the idea that what a mayor decides to fund is what we proceed with in the city. And I definitely think that this village, certainly safety and beautification are all things that I really care about and really support. The thing that I always struggle with is in what order we prioritize what, and how all of a sudden it's fine to bond $3.4 million for one thing, but there's not money for something else. And yet that's the form of government that we have. So I certainly would never say no because I really want to see this go forward. I guess, given my role as finance chair and particularly diving in a pretty serious way to the broader picture of finances of the city, my wheels are just sort of turning about putting all that together and how we're going to get through, other pressing priorities that we have. But generally, I just want to echo my support and my thanks to all those who have put a lot of time and into taking something on that is not easy to, agree on, even arriving at the priorities and with what is undoubtedly a ton of conflicting voices that you're hearing from. You've come up with something good here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are you saying that the Highlands doesn't always come into 100% agreement on everything? But we're pretty close on this project, so we're happy about how it's evolved. Thank you very much, Councilor Grossman.
Councilor Damoubed. Oh, Councilor Leary, did you have a question? No.
So thank you all for this. And it's really one of the things that I think is great is the way that the community engagement has been expanded beyond the working group. But I also think that Councilor Gordon's ideas to grow that group are really great. I'll often say I'm a lifelong Auburndale guy, but I was born on Floral Street. So I like to think of myself as an honorary Highlands guy too. And I still have family there on Floral Street. I just wanted to kind of raise, are you familiar with if you're not familiar with the concept of or the design ideology of light justice, I want to kind of bring it into the conversation because I saw that we're talking about lighting as part of the safety enhancements, and light justice is this concept that, and some of the leaders of this approach to designing street lighting are in the Boston area. And it's the idea that when we approach lighting from the perspective of kind of policing to achieve safety, we can create exclusionary conditions or be less inclusive than we'd like to be, but that there are ways to design street lighting that bring people into a condition of comfort with each other and creates a more just environment. So I would just like to kind of put that out there. Happy to make introductions if it's helpful. But I think it would be really great to be able to, to the degree that we're thinking about lighting as safety, to kind of bring this approach to it into the conversation.
Oh, thank you very much. I think that would be really a great enhancement and feedback as we go through this process. But if the working group continues in the same vein, but I'll find the right contacts with you to get that integrated into this whole discussion.
Thank you. All right, I just have a couple of quick questions for you. You mentioned not losing any parking. It looked like at Walnut and Floral they were losing a few spots.
So I think we really are focusing on that was, I think, clipped from a previous, more comprehensive design thing, but we're looking at the Center Street side of that intersection for the most part. So one of the remaining questions that would be tackled in phase 2 is kind of getting towards the MBTA bridge. What exactly does that look like with the bike lanes and the parking? But the working group, was focused. I mean, there's a potential for potentially the divider or some, but not looking at the parking and bike lane side of that.
Okay. It looked like on Floral, there's 2 spots that were gone, and then across the street on Walnut, 2 spots that were gone. And I know those are always full because of O'Hara's.
So we're going to pick up a couple of spaces on the other side of Floral Street. We're going to move a fire hydrant
Oh, okay.
and add a couple there.
Very helpful. Thank you. And only Bowdoin and Lincoln have speed tables, or is there speed tables in other places? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 40,000 that you were talking with Counselor Getz about, does that account for both undergrounding and potentially moving of the wires?
But then,
That would just cover the feasibility study for undergrounding and evaluate the potential.
Throw different numbers out, 10 million, 20 million. We're trying to get a real, with it, evaluating the street, evaluating the infrastructure. And so that way, the community will have an exact number of what it will be.
Okay, that's good. I just want to make sure that the moving of wires, that idea isn't lost as well.
No, but
Behind the buildings. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion? Actually, what I'd like to do is take a straw vote on this, but Councilor Gordon, do you have a question?
You know, if we're doing a straw vote on whether they should continue or not,
Yes, this is a straw vote on whether they should continue.
is it possible to request that somebody replace Maureen Oates?
I think people, I think.
Sorry,
Council
just to
Bixby-
clarify, I think, tonight's a little confusing because of what we had done last term in terms of asking that this working group come back with recommendations. I think the working group has made our recommendation on this set of proceeding with this initial phase of projects. But I think Commissioner Sullivan, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but since I have a microphone in front of me, that is asking for is a straw vote on whether or not DPW and, the administration should proceed with working with the consultants to design this. That is the working group's recommendation. We are now asking Public Facilities for your straw vote to support our recommendation and be looking at this phase one project. You're not straw voting on whether the working group continues or anything like that. We will tackle that, and note that I've also echoed your concerns earlier, and we've been in active conversations about how the next phase, how does that all go? We got a lot of work to do, but your straw vote would be on these areas. Do you think these generally look good and need some attention in the Highlands? And should they continue to work with the consultants to design them?
Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks,
That
Councilor.
reflects thank you.
So do you want to make a motion for the straw vote?
Sure. What do I say? Motion for a straw vote?
Are you approving or not?
A motion to approve a straw vote?
Yes, that'd be fine. All right. All those in favor of approving the straw vote, please raise your hands. All right. That looks unanimous.
Mr. Chair, you should probably clarify that we're voting not just for the straw vote, but to move the project along.
To move the project along.
Yeah.
Yeah, move it forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Counselor. Okay, so that was, any votes against? Any abstentions? All right, so that's everybody. Great. All right. Thank you very much.
to Public Facilities and for the members of the community who are here and everyone that has been supporting this project.
Counselor Gordon?
Do we need to move to hold this so that they can
Oh,
come
we
back
do.
and update?
Good point.
Okay, so motion to hold.
All right. Thank you. So there's a motion to hold from Counselor Gordon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll hold that item. Thanks.
Thank you all.
All right, the next item is 132-26, a discussion on the Transportation Network Improvement Plan. The Department of Public Works requesting to provide an update on the Transportation Network Improvement Plan. And I think we have Apex, the consultants here, to walk us through this. But Commissioner Sullivan, do you want to?
I will open it.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Shauna Sullivan, Commissioner of Public Works, and I'm here with Bernie McDonald, Deputy Commissioner of Public Works, and also Alfredo Vargas, our city engineer, and Frank Marinaccio from Apex Companies to present an update on the city's transportation network improvement program. Over the past several years, we've made measured progress. Our pavement condition index has improved significantly, and we've expanded the program beyond paving to include sidewalks, ADA accessibility, traffic calming, and bicycle infrastructure, reflecting a more comprehensive, complete streets approach to managing our network. Mr. Marinaccio will walk the committee through the program components, including our asset management framework, condition modeling, and project selection process. We look forward to your feedback and questions following the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Frank Marinaccio. I'm a principal at Apex Companies. I'm a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. I run this program from the consulting side, hired by Department of Public Works to manage projects like this. So we present every year at the public facilities meeting to kind of give an update to the road program, paving, sidewalks, traffic calming. And Zoom just kicked me out. Okay, so the Transportation Network Improvement Program is kind of a holistic view of all of the infrastructure that DPW works on and the most visible infrastructure to residents and visitors. We look at providing a very high level of service to people commuting and using the transportation network throughout the city. The goal is to accommodate all modes, so not just designing for cars, but for bicycles, people walking, public transit, so that no matter what mode people are using, they have a safe, convenient access to where they need to go. We also try to look at accommodation for all users, so regardless of age, ability to make a comfortable transportation network. In order to do this, we use infrastructure asset management program. So that helps us really using data to drive the decisions that we make so that we can be the most effective and efficient in utilizing city dollars to make the most impact on the transportation network. So infrastructure assessment, like Shauna said, we look at roadways, bike infrastructure, sidewalks, curb ramps, traffic calming, but the biggest infrastructure that the city maintains, or one of the biggest infrastructure that they maintain, is the roadway network. The pavement structure throughout all the roads in the city is one of the most heavily used assets that the city owns and maintains. So it's really important to have a pavement management program and to make sure that we're keeping roads in good condition. So having this data and having this system helps us to make sure that we're really providing the right repairs on the right roads at the right time. To give a background, we scan the roads every 2 years. The roads were last scanned in 2024, so we're looking to rescan the roads this year. We use a LiDAR and photography technology to drive all of the roads in the city, all the accepted roads in the city that the city maintains. It provides photographs approximately every 10 feet, and from those photographs and videos, we can discern all of the pavement distresses on all of the roadways throughout the city. It's a very cost-effective method. It gives us new data every 2 years to make sure that all of our decisions are objective. And it's a repeatable process that, like I said, we try to do every 2 years to give us fresh new data. The roadway conditions are very variable to how the roadways are used with traffic, but also for winter cycles and weather. So, last year we had a really bad winter. So how the roads are affected by that changes from year to year. On the years that we don't scan the roads, we try to use modeling to make up for that. So we're still making informed decision. But as we get further away from an actual roadway scan, the more we're relying on modeling than actual numbers. Once we scan all the roads get rated on a system from 0 to 100. It's called a pavement condition index. So if you see PCI throughout the presentation, it's just an index on what the score of that road is. So 100 being the best, it was just paved yesterday, to 0 being almost a gravel road, really hard to traverse down. We scan all of the asphalt roads in the city. The concrete roads are also part of the program, but we deal with those in a different way. So once all the roads in the whole city are scanned, they're given a score between 0 and 100, and we put them in these maintenance categories. So 100 being defer maintenance, you just paved it, you can wait a few years before cracks and things start to form. Routine maintenance, we have some practices like crack seal and fog seal to help kind of mitigate cracking and make sure that the asphalt pavement surface remains pliable. We have preventative maintenance. We've seen this around the city with bonded wearing course is probably the most used one. But we also have done rubber chip seal, microsurfacing, and cape seal in the past. When a road gets to about 70, it's in that minor rehabilitation category, which is mill and overlay, which is probably the most standard practice that's used in the city and kind of throughout the Northeast. We've also done some other things like cold in place and hot in place recycling, which I'll get into later. And then for roads that are 40 to 0 are in the maintenance overlay category, where we look to pave those local roads. So once we have all the roads categorized into these categories, it really helps us to make informed decisions on where to go next and how to plan these roads and prioritize them. So the Federal Highway Association has this really good graph that shows that how roads degrade is not linear for the most part. When a road gets to 10, 15 years, it really kind of drops off. So up there on the left, you have the PCI at 100, at the very top, excellent. And then at the bottom, a road that's just about failed. When a road is in good condition, it's a lot cheaper to keep it in good condition and preserve the roadway than it is to wait for it to be in very bad condition. You're spending 4, 5, 10 times more money to reconstruct the road when it's in really bad condition than it is to spend cheaper amounts of money to keep the road in good condition. So Newton is a very good place where you have a really robust program that uses all of these techniques to keep the roads in good condition. I will just give an example of that. This one is an example that's given. It was given last year at this presentation too, so it might be familiar to people, but this is a road in Connecticut where there are 2 different towns on either side of the double yellow center line. Back in 2004, they came together and did a joint project. So one community paid for half of the bill and the other community did the same, and they did a 2-inch mill and fill, which is they mill off 2 inches and come back and put 2 inches of new pavement. So the road was brand new in 2004. In 2010, Community 2 came to Community 1 and said, we want to preserve this road. We want to do crack sealing and microsurfacing to really preserve all the money we spent in 2004. Community 1 didn't opt to go into that, so Community 2 did just their side of the road. In 2017, this picture was from 2017, so you can see the 2 different methodologies here. So Community 2 has the optimized approach in 2017. What they're looking to do again is to crack seal and microsurface, which is a lot cheaper than doing another mill and fill or reclamation. So at that point in 2017, it was twice as expensive for Community 1 to now come in and repave this road, whereas Community 2 had done the pavement preservation throughout the years, is doing a much lower cost and saved twice as much money. Along with that, you can see the picture of this road. Which one would you rather drive on? So throughout that whole period of this road, the people in Community 2 had a nice road to drive on the entire time, where in Community 1, it was really good when they paved it, but now it's really bad, and it'll be really good when they pave it, but they're spending twice the amount of money. So Community 2 had a preservation success, and that's what we've been doing in the city of Newton for at least the last 10 years. This is just an illustration from roadresource.org, which is a really good resource. The blue lines is what you see on the left. The road is in very good condition. It starts at 100, and the blue is the optimized approach, or Community 2. You can see that you have small interventions, bringing it back up to 100 or improving the pavement score from time to time using those low-cost methods. Whereas the gray one is your conventional. You're paving it once, you're waiting until the roadways fail and paving again. That red line across the middle is called the complaint line. So when a road gets to a PCI of about 60, 65, that's when potholes start forming. And that area, that triangle area below the red line, for the traditional approach of waiting till it gets to zero to repave it, is when DPW is going out there and filling potholes. You're getting calls from residents for potholes and the road being bad, and that's when people are driving on it in bad condition. If you have that optimized approach, you reduce that a lot because the road's in good condition throughout its entire life cycle. So these are just some of those techniques that we have in our toolbox to, once we scan and figure out what the PCI of the road is, we'll put it in those maintenance categories, and then we have a few different types of techniques that we use in Newton to take care of those roads. So one is crack seal. That's where cracks open up, we fill them so that water can't penetrate into those cracks, freeze, and start to break apart into potholes. Fog seal and rejuvenation is when you spray the asphalt with there's either a plant-based material or a petroleum-based material that helps the asphalt to remain pliable so cracks don't form. It also reflects UV light, so it's like sunscreen for the road. Microsurfacing is a very small, kind of like a driveway sealant, but really more robust for roadways, to seal out the whole surface, stopping cracks from forming, again, keeping out the water as a preventative treatment. Bonded wearing course is a very thin overlay. It's also very pliable. We just did this on Homer Street and Center Street recently. Mill and overlay is one of the most widely used ones. We just did that on Beacon Street this year, Fuller Street. That's probably the most common one. Reclamation is when the road gets really bad. You really have to fix all of the sub-base material, all the gravel beneath the asphalt. So that's another technique that we use when the roads are really bad. Hot in place and recycling and cold in place recycling. These are also, do these on bad roads, but they use the asphalt that was already there to recycle it. We just did a hot in place recycling project on Grove Street and Walnut Street. And then we've done cold in place recycling in the past and have some more projects coming up in the next year or two for that. With the roadways, we've also looked at the sidewalks. So city staff actually went and redid the sidewalk inventory. It was originally done in 2022, and they just redid it last year into this year. So there's approximately 415 miles of sidewalk compared to 270 miles of road. So there's a lot of sidewalk in the city. So when we do paving projects, especially mill and overlay, we look to upgrade curb ramps and sidewalks along with those projects. So there's also about 5,400 curb ramps in the city, so a lot. We've constructed 954 of them since 2017, and approximately 35% still need some work and they're not ADA compliant that we're trying to address, one project at a time. So the program and history and results. The current conditions, like I said, we're in a year where we're not scanning. We're looking to scan this year. So in doing some modeling, we update our past data to take into account degradation since the last time it was scanned. We also input all the roadways that have been paved. So if a roadway has been paved, we increase the PCI back up to 100. If it's been crack sealed or some other treatment options, we increase the PCI a little bit, but not all the way to 100 because it's not refreshing the whole road. So right now, the current PCI is a 75. This is a planning tool that we use. And as you can see over the years, in 2018, it started as a 62. And we made a lot of progress at the beginning because the roads were in such bad condition. But now as we're getting to a whole network value that's a lot higher, the gains will start to slow down a little bit. It'll be very hard to make huge gains, and it won't increase every year like you saw kind of in 2022, 23, 24. It's not going to go up every single year, but it is trending in the right direction, and ultimately that's where we're headed. So the current conditions of the roadway, like I said, is a 75 overall. And after the inspections, in a year where we don't scan, we make those adjustments to try to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples from year to year. In putting all of the mileage in those 5 categories, you can see here kind of what it's going to cost to fix all the roadways. So this kind of shows you exactly where all the roads are right now and how much it would cost to do the recommended treatment for every single road right now. One thing to note is that those 2 bad categories of maintenance overlay and minor rehabilitation, we're working on reducing that while also keeping roads in good condition. So just since last year, those 2 categories of maintenance overlay and minor rehabilitation have gone from 35% and we've lowered it to 30%. So it's gone down 5% in just 1 year. And that's kind of been the trend, like you saw. As that gets lowered, more of those roads go into routine maintenance and preventative maintenance where we want to keep them. So since 2018 too, that routine maintenance and no maintenance required has gone from 15% to 40%. So about 70% of your network is in those good categories, and we want to keep those roads in that good categories while also working on the bad roads. Another goal of the program is to really focus on the arterials and collectors. Those are the roads that people are using every day. So that really makes the most impact to all residents, whether they live on that road or not, they're using these roads to get in and out of the city. So you can see those are all trending upwards. They increased from an 81 to an 82 this year. And like I said, we're going to rescan the roads again this year, so we'll see how that affects both of them. But we're making progress on arterials and collectors as well as the local roads. So these are just kind of a highlight of the arterials and collectors that we've paved over the last years, just so you can get an idea of what types of roads we're talking about. This year we did Beacon Street, Center Street, Grove Street, Homer, Walnut, Winchester was a big one, and Ward Street. So that just kind of shows like those are the main roads that people use day in and day out. And we want to make sure that we keep those in good condition. We track paving history, obviously. So from 2017 to 2025, the DPW has paved, almost 112 miles of road. That's a significant improvement. And that really goes to show, how the PCI is increasing is all of these projects that come together. You can see also too that DPW uses a lot of different types of techniques. So a lot of communities just will do crack filling and mill and overlay. But we're looking to try to touch as many miles of road every year to keep the network in good condition. So you can see for 2025, we're looking to pave about 21 miles of road, which is, again, another significant year of improving the roadways. So major sidewalk construction in 2025, we also took care of 4.9 miles of sidewalk, which is pretty significant. Sidewalks are a lot more expensive than asphalt road paving, but they last a lot longer too. So that investment will really improve the sidewalk network for people walking. Although we have contractors doing a lot of this work, the city DPW crews also do a lot of the work as well. So DPW crews last year installed 47 ADA ramps and 1.5 miles of that sidewalk. They also do a lot of patching and filling of potholes as well. And as we saw this winter, we had a pretty bad pothole year, and DPW was out there filling lots of potholes. So we just want to highlight the importance of working together with the contractors and city forces to get some of this work done. Along with the program, we also integrate traffic calming and bike lane projects. So when we're looking to mill and overlay a road, we integrate with the traffic department to make sure that these projects are coordinated and seamless. So there's a lot of projects that we've been working on with them. You can see them all here. We have some ongoing and upcoming projects as well. Along with that, bike lanes. Last year on Beacon Street and then Walnut and Homer right here around City Hall. You saw when we paved them, we implemented bike lanes in those capacities for these projects too. So we're also working to do that to improve biking around the city as well. All right, so programs and updates. So once we have all this information, we know the existing conditions of the roadway network and the transportation network in the city. We can use some modeling and some key factors to make sure that we're planning projects accurately and efficiently. One thing I want to point out is the increase in cost over the years. So when we started this program in 2017, the cost per square yard for a mill and overlay project was $30 a square yard. So money got a lot further than it does now. And you can see in 2025 last year, saw a price about $90 a square yard, and increasing that with inflation for this year, we're looking at a planning level cost of $94. So the money isn't going as far as it used to be, with inflation and rising construction costs, as particularly after COVID, but over the last 2 years as well too. Along with those paving projects, we've also, like Shauna said, added in a lot of other non-paving improvements to traffic calming, bike lanes, drainage improvements, and things like that too. So we're not just using this money to just pave roadways. A lot goes into these projects to make sure that when we're paving a road, we're not coming back the next year and doing something else and ripping it up, especially with utilities. So taking all those factors into account, you can see the existing conditions on the right, which is the PCI of the road. Obviously our budget on the left. We also take into account a lot of other things when we look to pave roads. Like we talked about earlier in this meeting, the water system, sewer upgrades, utility upgrades. We try to coordinate with National Grid and other city departments to make sure that all of the utilities that are underneath the road are not being affected by these projects. We take into account community needs, sidewalks, ADA, bike network, like we talked about, but also the cost benefit value. That's a data-driven metric that we calculate for each road based on the existing condition, the type of roadway, so how much traffic it sees a day, the recommended repair, and kind of the life extension that that repair will give it. So that just kind of helps us to prioritize the roadways, which roadways would benefit most from an expenditure or improvement. So the annual budget, the typical transportation improvement budget is 9.5 million. We allocate about 8 of it for actual paving projects. The other 1.5 million goes to things like traffic calming, intersection improvements, any engineering design or planning that needs to happen, depending on certain road situations, and highway maintenance. So how we allocate that money from year to year is set up this way so that we make sure that we're spending it in a good percentage in routine maintenance, preventative maintenance, minor rehabilitation, and maintenance overlay. For this upcoming year, we have some of the plan work here. It's not all of it, but we have some remaining roads from 2025. These were roads that were contracted last year that the contractor still needs to finish up their projects this year. And then we have some new projects in 2026 that we're looking to do in the pavement preservation, preventative maintenance categories, and the minor rehabilitation you can see there in the yellow. Those are coming from those two bins there. The maintenance overlay program, continuing this program at about $1 million a year. We have a lot of roads left over from last year, but it's probably only about 25% of the roads, maybe 20% of the roads. If you remember from last year, we were going to pave, I think, 152 streets from last year. So the contractor made a really big dent on those, but have some more that they're actually paving right now. And then we have a new list of roads that we're looking to pave this year in 2026. We also have some planned sidewalk and intersection improvements. We have many locations of RFBs that we're looking to put in. You can see the last one there, Lincoln Street at Bowdoin Street that the commissioner mentioned earlier. And then we have Manhattan Street pedestrian improvements project, the sidewalk there. We also have some CIP sidewalk improvement projects. We had started around some of the schools last year with the Williams School work. And then this year, we're looking to do some more at the Ward School, Cooper, Burr, Bowen, and then the Lincoln Elliott School. So taking all of this into account and the budget that we have, we use a lot of the data to do some funding modeling. So this takes into account the existing conditions of the roadway, the planned budget from year to year, and what that would look like if you spent it in this like responsible way. So the current budget on the bottom there shows that spending the 8 million that we're spending a year, you'll show decline in the PCI over time. But by changing some of these maintenance strategies and having those paved roads in the preventative maintenance, tackling those with the treatments that are important for those roads to keep them in good condition, we can try to stretch the dollar and make it go further than we expect. So in showing that last slide, going from $30 to $94 now, you can really see the impact that the dollar's not going as far as it used to. So as this program evolves, it's not meant to be stagnant. Every year we look to update this, and we do it pretty much continuously, working with DPW every week. So like I said, this year we're looking to rescan the roads. So once we have that data, we can see how bad the roads were affected from this winter season. It will help us to recalibrate and prioritize the roads for the upcoming years. Every year we try to look at having a 5-year cycle or CIP, so we look to reprioritize those with the new information when we get it. So that's it on the the overview of the system and what we've been doing, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Councilor Albright.
First of all, thank you for such a comprehensive presentation. And having seen it in 2 years in a row now, I'm really beginning to get it. So, thank you for that. I have a question for you about sidewalks, and you said you were doing a sidewalk review. So in this neighborhood around here, there's a lot of sidewalks that don't need replacing, but the sidewalk gets raised because of trees or whatever. So it might be 3 inches higher here and level over here. What do you do about that situation?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different programs that we have that address sidewalks. So in the roads that are getting major work done, like Homer and Walnut did this year, we'll look to replace those types of panels with special treatment around trees, because the roots a lot of times are the ones that are heaving those sidewalks up. But we also have a program, it's called horizontal sidewalk cutting. It's like grinding down. So whenever a panel is up, they can grind it down, which is kind of a intermediate step to having to replace the whole thing. We've been doing projects like that. We did one around the Williams School, looking to do one around the Ward School, and then in the Beacon Langley Union area this year. So
I noticed in some places, and maybe I know that my neighbor did one by himself. He put some tar or asphalt, I don't know what you call it, just so that when his leaf blower wouldn't get stuck. Mm-hmm. So can people do that themselves? Can you do that, or?
I would really recommend that a person put in a 311. DPW will come out and make it safe with the asphalt.
Okay.
And it goes on a long-term repair list.
Okay.
Because we would, in the end, have to remove the tree.
Okay, so it's better to say, put it into 311 and say there are these sidewalks at these addresses need some
And
work.
we will come up and put some asphalt in and make it safe.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is there are a lot of those yellow handicapped at the ramps, the yellow.
The tactile panels?
Yeah, they're ripping and they're ripped all over the place. And in particular, well, there's a lot of those, but I wanted to particularly mention at Whittier and Arden Street, at the intersections of Whittier and Arden and Lowell Avenue. puddles collect at those intersections and they block access to the handicapped ramps. So if you could do something just to level out those, there's 4 intersections there that need to be leveled out. Thank you very much. I've been meaning to tell you about those for a long time. This was
We
my
noted them.
chance.
Counselor Gordon.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It was really interesting to me. At an earlier meeting, there was a discussion about when the utility company come and they rip up the streets, and they're supposed to put it back in the condition, I guess, that it was rated at. And I was wondering how that gets tracked. I live near Langley right now, and they are in the process of ripping up that street constantly. And I'm just wondering, the condition wasn't bad before, but it's not looking so good now. So I was curious about that.
We do have a 5-year moratorium. Once we pave a road, they're required to repave it curb to curb if it's within that 5 years. They are supposed to restore it to the condition of the road beforehand. Oftentimes, if they're still working, they don't do it instantly, but they have been coming in and paving half the road where they've trenched.
So the city does track it.
Yes,
You are aware,
yes,
and you
we do.
kind of go and check
Yeah.
up on them to make sure they're.
We have a dedicated utility inspector to ensure that they come back and do their work.
Thank you.
Along with that, once the utilities, once we have the utilities plan, we can use GIS to kind of track that. So when we're looking at paving roads, that one slide that had all the things that kind of go into the decision, that goes into our decision as well. So when we're planning years out, if National Grid has we want to pave this road, but National Grid has a project in 2027, even though we know it needs to be paved now, we'll put it on 2028 and kind of make it safe temporarily.
Counselor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple comments and maybe one unanswerable question, more of an observation, I think. So the first is, would it be possible for you to put that sort of uses of funds slide back up, as I would call it, the one that talks about how we spend the current $9.5 million? Okay. So I was trying to put some different pieces together in my mind looking at this one, because in my head, the city of Newton spends $9 million a year on paving. I guess we've gone up to 9.5 million maybe. And I do understand that at some point we changed this from whatever it used to be called, the paving program, to the Transportation Network Improvement Program. And I remember some of that transition. However, it stood out to me that 1.5 million is allotted for traffic calming out of this particular bucket of money. I don't know if that's accurate. We have a different line item for traffic calming, and I see Ms. Sullivan wants to weigh in. And same with the other intersection improvements is maybe a little different, but same with engineering, designing, planning, and highway maintenance.
So 1.5 million is used for streets, for asphalt and sidewalk repairs and ADA ramp repairs. I believe it's $750,000 is dedicated to traffic calming. That money goes into those budget line items.
Okay, so we're talking about the same money in the budget line item.
It's part of the 9.5 million.
Okay, so I suppose then maybe earmark down or I'll earmark down that for me, this is a question for Ms. Lemieux, because the different pools of money that this is all coming from, I mean, our paving money has always been pieced together since Mayor Warren initiated this program from, different pockets of money. We've never had a real budgeted source of cash. And I suppose I will jump ahead to my second comment because they dovetail. The one that had the raise out of the different PCIs we can achieve at different budgets. So I won't speak for everyone, but I think it's pretty universally experienced that other than education, the next most highly discussed topic of interest in the city of Newton is this. And if we continue at our current trajectory, and we're basically looking at ending up at a PCI of around 70. I don't think that's gonna satisfy our residents. And I'm just pointing it out to everybody because we're about to have some really big conversations in the coming weeks about different levers that we might pull financially and what that money could be used for. I'm specifically talking about the various considerations with respect to our pension liability and how we might attack it. There are going to be a lot of needs for that money, and to me, this is a really big one. I can't even begin to comprehend how we would get to $28 million a year in paving, but I don't think 70 is going to cut it. So that's just an observation. The next one, this is I don't think you can answer this, more of an observation thing. As Councillor Kalis knows, I went to Switzerland last summer. And I was always under the impression that one of the reasons we have such terrible roads is because we have such cold, snowy, rainy weather. Well, so do they. And they don't have a pothole in sight. Not one. I know Councillor Kalis has been there relatively recently too. I don't know if you had the same observation that I did. There's not a crack to be seen. It's like the most beautiful pavement I've ever seen. And I kept asking myself, how is this possible? I don't know if you know how that's possible, but it really struck me how gorgeous their roadways were.
Right. So the plan and, what we've been doing over the years to kind of get to this point with the PCI being that is that when we first started, the maintenance overlay and minor rehabilitation were huge. And so as we start to work on those really bad roads and spending the $94 on, mill and overlay to get those roads into the no maintenance required and the routine maintenance, a lot of towns and municipalities focus just on that, and it's called worst first. And that was kind of like what I showed in this graph kind of tells it all. So, the worst first, meaning you're just tackling the worst roads. Anytime a PCI is, it's bad to drive on a road that's a 20, but is it being used by the whole community, or is it a dead end street that has, one house on it or something? It's not that you can't do something like that. You just want to plan it with everything else. So as we start to tackle those roads that are in those worst conditions, that's where the maintenance overlay program came from. Because we said, how can we still take care of these local roads while also keeping the big arterial roads good? We're moving those roads from that really bad category into the preventative maintenance in those ones. And we're also spending money in those higher tiers as well. So once we pave a road, we have it in that preservation state, and we want to just keep it in that state forever. So we want to start to do all of these blue interventions that are a lot cheaper so that there aren't cracks. Because when you do that optimized approach and you're doing the fog seals and the microsurfacing and the bonded wearing course, you keep the road in good condition throughout its whole lifetime. If you do it where you pave it once and you just let it go until it gets to a 0, that's when you have all the cracks and you're driving over the potholes for 20 years until you get extra funding to tackle all of those. So the goal of this is to freeze all those good roads in that good state so that they last through the winter and things like that as well. And then slowly tackling the ones that are in that worst bin. So it's kind of a backwards approach. Like, you want to spend most of your money or a lot of your money on the smaller treatments and not just go and tackle all the worst roads right at once. I don't know if that makes
No, I mean, I've watched this presentation each year for, this is now my 9th time. And I have totally absorbed that information. This will dovetail with my final comment, which is that tale of two sides of the road slide. I've sent that to so many constituents. I mean, virtually any time anybody has reached out to me, I've sent them the latest version of this and that slide. And this is not a comment for you, because you cannot do anything about this. This is more for my colleagues and anybody on the city administrative side who holds this view with me, but I also get very riled up about our private way situation because that also, not only I live on one, to be clear, so I've experienced this pain and this problem in a really ugly way firsthand. But we have a lot of them in this city. I can never remember off the top of my head what the actual number is. And that also really contributes to people's experience of what the pavement condition is of our city overall. And yet, virtually nobody out there who lives on one of these or maybe has put some money into paving their own understands that tale of two roads slide. And I just have long felt that as a city, we have to be thinking differently about at least how we educate people about what they're doing to themselves by putting off maintenance and not being willing to invest, educating them about how we got into the situation that we're in, because I think a lot of them, like me, bought their homes unaware of the situation that they were walking into. And I'll save it for another day. I sort of wish, what is Mr. Rice's title? Co-COO Rice, I don't know, was here because I think this is the kind of thing that would sort of fall into his wheelhouse of activities and things that he's thinking about from a community happiness perspective. But just to say that that is always on my mind. And now that I'm actually on this committee and I have an opportunity to raise up those of us worried about private ways and how we can empower our residents to take action to maintain the roadways that they are responsible for. I would like to see us find a way to do that. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. Councilor Getz.
Okay, I just have two quick questions. If you had to sort of like give a simple answer to, what a pavement condition index is, in terms of, because I was talking, we literally just had our roads milled today and paved, so I've got a lot of residents asking me, and I reference them to this report because they want to even see more of the roadway paved. But what is it? What is it? Is it actually a refractory? What is it? Because you said it's an assessment every 10 feet.
Right.
So is it what is it?
So it's we scan the roadways using video and photos, but also LiDAR technology, which is like a light radar. With those two together, we can discern all of the, I think there's 10 to 12 factors that go into it, or 10 to 12 distresses. Some of them are rutting, alligator cracking, longitudinal cracking, potholes, and patching is one of them. And then those each get graded on like a low, medium, or high. So is it just like a small pothole, or is it a pothole that's a foot deep? All of those go into an ASTM standard, which is just like to make sure that however a pavement assessment is done, everybody's doing it the same way. And each road starts at 100, and then it gets subtracted with all of the deteriorations that are found. Now that we're using video and LiDAR takes measurements, so they can easily measure it instead of the old-fashioned way of going out there with a wheel and having somebody measure every single crack in the city. We can do it with better technology that's more repeatable from year to year. So all of that information goes into that score. And we used to kind of say, like, so the whole network is a 75 in school, that would be a C. That's not really accurate. About between 70 and 75 is a good roadway network. Once you get into the 60s, that's where it would be considered like a failing network, or starting to get to a failing network. So 75 is a good score overall. And that PCI, though, although in the report you see it's like a 75.2 or 0.3, it's not that accurate. It still is a planning tool, but we need those decimals to kind of compare one road to another.
Okay.
But a lot goes
So
into
to rank order them, or
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Right. And then my other question is, and I don't know if you can even, well, I appreciated Counselor Grossman's question because I sort of understand that graph as over time, if you start investing, then the dollars will be less, just even in the sense of like you'll get everybody into that maintenance phase so that you'll be dropping in a lot of money. But then over 10 years, 20 years, you will be spending less and less to
Right.
keep them in that frame.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I interpret that.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly it.
Okay. And then lastly, I'm just sort of thinking about tolling because we have so many people that do not reside in our city. Actually, and I don't even think I can see Commissioner Sullivan laughing, but it's like, I don't know if that's even feasible. I wonder whether or not we have so many people literally zipping through and here it is, you are using our road, but whether or not there's any way to have a system where they can actually pay for the road that they're transiting. I'm just throwing it out there.
Living and residing in Rhode Island, we
Okay.
had the truck tolls on 95. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they're no longer there. They're in a big legal back and forth. But there are some communities that have done. I think New York City is doing um, a congestion tax,
Right.
for people using it. But the people, although they don't live here using the transit system, they're also contributing to the economic development of the city as well too. So kind of taking that into account as well.
Yeah, I just sort of see this as, it would be nice, right? Okay.
Thank you, Counselor Getz. Counselor Kelly, and then Leary, and then Grossman.
Thank you. Just since we've been meeting tonight, I think it's coincidental because I don't see any of my neighbors as Zoom participants. I've received 3 requests for people saying, when is our street going to be paved? And I know that residents are really interested in finding that information. Though I was very helpful to post about a neighboring street that's going to be paved that will have no parking during the day during that. We don't want to have to answer and look up that question every time we're asked. So I would love it if Commissioner Sullivan could give us the link we can send to people so they can find this information out for themselves. I know it used to be easily available. And if a link is better than having them try and navigate the city website, which seems to be challenging for most people. So does such a thing exist or will it soon? And we can refer interested residents who want to know when their street's going to be done to look that up.
It does exist, and I will send it tomorrow morning. Did you?
Counselor Kelly, did you hear that? It does exist, and she'll send it tomorrow morning.
Perfect. Thank you. Then we can all send to our people. Look it up.
Okay. Counselor Leary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was going to propose that we take a field trip to Switzerland and look at their roads. And I just was
I
looking
second
it up
that.
after that you were talking about that, Councilor Grossman, and they apparently have this durable asphalt. Do they have better asphalt than we do?
City engineer Alfredo Vargas just provided me with some information on Switzerland. Switzerland invests heavily in proactive, high-quality road maintenance and expansion, spending roughly
2.5 to
9 billion Swiss francs.
Yes.
Annually, focusing on long-term sustainability and bottleneck reduction.
I've got the same page up.
Yes, in contrast, the U.S. faces significant funding shortages.
I don't know how they can afford, and then Astro Bridge system, that was interesting. I never heard of that. How come we don't do the Astro Bridge? Because all that work over on Elliott Street's a real pain.
Councilor Leary, was that a motion that we take a field trip?
I've seen this, this presentation many, many, many times, and I still love the comparison of that side by side of the road. It really does show. I feel like instead of the bad roads and potholes, I like to call it our traffic calming enhancement plan that does slow people down, especially on private roads, because they actually don't want their roads fixed because then people will actually drive down it. But it seems like, the cost though has been a barrier for us to sort of make improvement, just as we're, investing more and we're doing all the right thing and we're doing better planning. the costs have been pretty astronomical going up. And how much is that impacting our ability to do more?
A lot. A lot. Like as you can see there, in the funding slide, just to maintain what we have right now would be 18 million a year. And obviously we don't have that. So what we've been trying to do is use these pavement management practices and the preservation forward optimized approach, the blue line on top, to spend those, $2 a square yard to keep that road where it is and prevent it from sliding down that scale.
Yeah.
So we're kind of
Prevention is even more important.
right. So basically, like this slide right here, we're trying to catch it before it falls off that drop off. So trying to use the money in the most efficient way possible because we don't have all the money in the world.
I do want to add that we've received significant funding for paving over the past few years, substantially more than the 9.5 million, which has allowed us to do
Right,
a
right.
significant number of streets.
Yeah, you did get some extra money. Right. I just want to put in a plug for for California Street. We really could use some traffic calming there, and it was supposed to be part of a project, so, but it's been actually years now, and I'm feeling like people are sort of feeling ignored. And that is a street when it's not absolutely congested and packed, which during rush hour, it is a long straight road that people can pick up speed, and there's a important crossing over to the park and another one, the one further up where the entrance to Charles River Path. And there've been a number of close calls there, and I'd like to see some traffic calming there sooner than later. One other thing that I did hear get noticed about, especially in the past icy weather, there's a corner over at the Underwood School there's a puddle there. It's over up next on the church side of it, across from the front of the Underwood School. So I think that's like I want to say the southeast corner or something. I can't, but it does puddle up and it causes, and it's been there like that for a long time. It's kind of a small thing, but it's a crossing area where the kids cross and everything. Yeah. It's like as you step down into the street, so at the ramp, yeah. Yeah, and but we've got all nice new ramps in Nonantum in the village center there. The only thing, there was a new kind of configuration. Some people were concerned about that being a tripping hazard. And it was like, I've never seen that in other parts of the city. It seemed like was that like an experiment?
I think it was in order to get the slopes necessary to make it compliant. That was the design they chose with the ADA compliance.
Okay, it is a little bit of a tripping hazard, I think. That's just a feedback. I mean, I haven't tripped on it yet. But. Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thanks, Councilor Larry. Councilor Grossman.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood the question, the answer to Councilor Getz's question about whether that slide that showed getting to 80 would require 28 million. Her question, I thought, if I understood it correctly, was, is that like a short-term thing that we would have to spend that kind of money? And then the idea is that we would raise all of our sort of lowest common denominator of state of roads, and then it would take less money going forward to maintain 80. And that the answer was yes. Is that correct?
So that funding figure is the annual expenditure. So that funding per year to get on that trajectory. We redo that funding model every single year based on the inputs that change, like the existing conditions. So once we pave those roads, although we try to model for the existing conditions, it's not always very accurate. We like to have the data, every 2 years to inform that. But currently, that's what we're projecting, and it kind of changes year to year.
But like for each year in perpetuity, or for some number of years, and then you would expect that number to drop?
We would expect that number to drop if you're following that same, like this principle.
Would you still expect that number to drop if the cost of paving materials continues to climb at the rate that it's climbed in the time that we've been doing this?
Yes, so because the roads are in good condition, would still be spending at that lower tier of repairs instead of like the really expensive tier of mill and overlay. Those will still be necessary, but at a much lower rate. So it would still drop even if prices went up because you'd be using that cheaper tier more often. If I explain.
Even if it went up by 3 times like it has?
Overall, yeah. So like overall, the percentage of spending would go down, but the amount of money might go up.
So I'm really dialing into this because I don't want to be out there falsely advertising to people that in order to maintain a PCI of 80, we need to spend $28 million a year on paving. But I suppose what would be helpful to me is if we almost could have like a 5 to 10 year, here's what you would have to expect to spend in order to get to 80 and stay at 80, kind of baking in like reasonable assumptions of how the cost of asphalt goes up. Because, for example, as a percentage, I mean, that makes sense. As a percentage of the budget, that whatever the dollar amount would be is what would be necessary to maintain once we're at this maintenance level. Unfortunately, that is not how our paving budget in the city of Newton works.
Right.
Seti Warren announced it as $9 million a year, and it's been $9 million a year flat, with the exception of pockets of money that have appeared here or there. ARPA was a big lift. There have been other times that we've had some other larger improvement project somewhere and money for paving has come in when we've done school projects. Money money has appeared to make it so that $9 million is not really an accurate reflection of what we've spent. But as we're going forward as a city, more detail that we could understand on that, I think would actually be really helpful and impactful as we're making some of these other decisions that I alluded to earlier. And even as a few years go by, when inevitably the topic of an override comes back again. So I'm not asking for any immediate deliverable,
Exactly.
but please just bear in mind as we continue our work with you that, having some detail around that, I think would help us a lot.
Right. So right now, we're basing the funding modeling on what the network would look like at its current state at 75 to get to 80. What would it look like if we started at 80? Would it be different from year to year? As you get out further than 5 years and 10 years and looking at that, the modeling of that becomes so hard to portray accurately, but we can portray it with some assumptions that are made too. So we can look at potentially giving you more information to be more informed on that.
I would ask that you start actually at the 75 and get us to 80 and then maintain for a few years.
Right.
So it's not, you don't have to look so far out. All right, I just have a few questions related to that. So Commissioner, approximately how much have we spent last year and the year prior on roads?
I think last year we were over $12 million.
Over 12. And the prior? Any idea?
I think it was 10 and a half. I would have to go back. I can send
Okay.
out the graphic.
So we've been over. It's just something for the whole committee to know. On the PCI, can you go back to the slide that had the color coding? Because I don't understand how we're at 75, where 40% is in the red and orange and 40% is in the green and blue. It seems like it should be a lot lower. Or the green and green. In terms of mileage and in terms of the percentages, it just looks like it's
Right.
Yeah.
So the preventative maintenance, routine maintenance, and maintenance required, the orange and then the two greens, represents about 70% of the network. So those are, roads in good condition. And because the PCIs of those are so high, it kind of,
It offsets the reds.
yeah. So the one that shows the local and the arterials. So there you can see that the local roads are rated at a 71, but the arterials are actually at an 82, which is very high on the roads that people travel the most. Because there's more mileage in the local roads, that's kind of where it like averages out to the 75. So it
I see.
brings it down a little bit.
Okay. The micro interventions that you're talking about doing, is that logistically possible? Do we have enough contractors? Because I know at the end of last year, we had a problem with the number of contractors and
Right. Yes, there's only, so much construction that a city can see over the year. And like Commissioner Sullivan said, last year we spent about $12 million, and you kind of got to see what that looked like construction-wise, how many streets were detoured on along with all the utility departments doing work as well, not just road paving. 12 million last year, there was a lot of construction, and that was kind of the limit of what contractors could feasibly do in a year. That's why, that slide we showed had some roads left over from last year's budget, from last year's program, but
We also added a contractor last year
oh,
so that
okay.
we could do more work.
So relatedly, I remember in September, maybe going into October, there were sections of the city that were a disaster because of all of the road work going on. How are we planning to improve that this year? Or can we?
I'm not sure that we can. We are unfortunately sometimes at the mercy of our contractors when they can get the paving done. One of our contractors, one of our larger contractors that was doing most streets had to leave for a couple of weeks, which really put a crunch on the work. And it ended up being all at the end of the season.
But what we try to do to mitigate that is we have a construction meeting every week with interdisciplinary police, utilities, DPW, engineering to see kind of everything that's going on in the city, as well with the utility coordination, to make sure that detours aren't running into each other and things like that, to try to minimize as much as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and we still need to get the work done, but how can we minimize impacts as much as possible?
Okay, I don't know if other counselors experienced this last year, but I got a ton of calls about this, and I'm just wondering if there's a way to keep the council informed, whether it's a monthly note that goes out or something about where there might be red flags and issues.
So I'm happy to send you we do a weekly construction schedule that we publish online. I'm happy to send you all the link to that. It shows all the utility work, paving, everything that's going on that week that
Okay.
DPW is aware of.
All right.
And we have a map of all of the road paving project too.
All right, that might not be enough because I don't know if I'll be able to, I'll probably be able to decipher it, but I just want to make sure that all counselors can look at something.
It's written out. So
Okay.
you can see the weekly schedule. You can see which projects are going on.
All right. Counselor Albright?
Well, are you done? Because
I'm done.
so you mentioned the 12 million that we spent last year, and I remember the conversations that we had back in the spring where we wondered, we had conversations about maybe we should not put that much money into roads because could all that money be spent in the construction season? So I'm wondering at the end of the day, what % of the work was held over?
We didn't complete 25 of the 152 roads. They're being completed right now as part of that contract. So they're actually being completed within the fiscal year.
So they're being worked on now?
Yes,
Oh, okay. So all of it will be done within the fiscal year?
yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, Counselor Dumabit.
So Councillor Grossman and Councillor Kalis and Councillor Leary took us on a field trip to Switzerland, and I'd like to go to Scandinavia and Japan, where I know that there are some advancements or ideas about alternative paving materials that can be more permeable, cooler, more sustainable. I know that these come at a cost premium, but I'm wondering if we're and you know, to Councillor Leary's point, more durable. Also, I'm wondering if we're considering those. I'm sure that there are sort of strict challenges based on what is approved within the US and that kind of thing. But what is our sort of big picture thinking on how to create more permeability and sustainability in our paving and surfacing strategies long term?
So there's a lot of different techniques that the city is using that a lot of other cities and towns don't use. One that you just saw that is more sustainable than traditional techniques was the hot in place that was done on Grove and Walnut Street because they're milling up the existing asphalt, injecting more asphalt binder or like the petroleum rejuvenator and putting it right back down. So it doesn't even leave the roadway. So they're not hauling it away, saving on emissions and things like that. You're not adding traffic of heavy trucks that will, you know, help to damage the roads around it as well. And then, you know, coming back and doing the paving on top of that. So there's that one. There's the cold in place recycling, which is a similar process. It's just cold, not hot. But then also doing all those micro interventions too, where you're keeping the asphalt. Basically, you're just rejuvenating the asphalt that's there instead of ripping it out and putting it back. We've also looked into the state has done a lot with polymer asphalt, which makes it more. It's not necessarily more durable, it's more flexible so that it doesn't crack over time because asphalt is a lot more flexible than a concrete roadway. But in the Northeast, the concrete roadways are harder to maintain because of the salt. And so we've looked at the polymer and also warm mix asphalt are something that we talk with engineering when we're looking at projects too as well. They're not always feasible to use on every project, but just installing the new techniques like hot in place and cold in place like go a long way for sustainability.
Thank you. You're a wealth of information. All right, is there a motion on this item? Councillor Grossman.
I'm assuming NAN makes sense. Motion for no action necessary.
All right, so there's a motion for NAN on this. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, thank you. All right, so this last item, 43-26, request for discussion and ordinance change to only require new sidewalk installation if the existing sidewalk is damaged during construction. Councillor Albright, Kalis, and Leary requesting a discussion and ordinance change regarding Chapter 29, Sections 157 through 166 of the revised ordinances, requirement to install a sidewalk when renovations exceed 50% of house costs. The homeowner typically learns at the end of a long renovation project that a new sidewalk will be required at a cost of between $25,000 to $50,000, depending on sidewalk configuration. The ordinance change would only require a new sidewalk installation if the existing sidewalk was damaged during construction. We held this in February. Okay. Commissioner Sullivan.
I believe this was held for the draft ordinance that the law department provided. Happy to take questions on that.
That'd be great. Can you post it? I do have one question, but I'll go to other questions first. Any questions by the committee? And I'm assuming here that people read through it, but and if you want Commissioner Sullivan kind of to highlight the changes, she can. Councillor Grossman? Yes, please.
So essentially, people that are renovating their home will not be required to put in the new sidewalk. and curbing. There is a change to the language at the recommendation of inspectional services in the law department that it's a 50% or more of the combined total of the exterior walls and roof. If you trigger that, then you are going to be required. There was some concern that somebody might leave one wall.
Counselor Damabed, and then Albright. Oh, Counselor Getz.
Vaguely remembering our conversation last time, I thought the trigger was the full demolition, but I'm perfectly okay with the way it's written now because I sort of felt that your thought on this was the amount of demolition that was going on the site and the amount of just parting away with larger trucks, you know, in terms of the damage that they would do to the sidewalk.
They were already required to replace if they damage the sidewalk.
Okay.
If you do a full demolition, you will be required to do the curbing
Yeah,
and sidewalk.
yeah. No, I was just talking about the threshold, you know, and but the 50% is fine.
So it's more than a 50%. So if you just
Above.
did an interior renovation that was over 50% of the building, you would not be required to put it in. If you knock down 2 exterior walls and a roof, you would then trigger this ordinance and be required to put in the sidewalks and curbing.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the language right now and it says new build is constructed or 50% or more of the combined total of the exterior walls and roof of the existing building is demolished.
Yes.
So that to me is fine, you know, the
Okay.
50% trigger. Just was trying to get clarification from you about the amount of demolition.
I guess I'd like to clarify that means that even if after that project the sidewalk is completely fine, they're going in and putting a new sidewalk in.
Only on a full demolition. Or if they take down more than 50% of the exterior walls of a building. That is essentially a full remodel.
But if the sidewalk is like the same as it was before, they're still doing
They
it?
can request a waiver and our engineering to go out and do an inspection and waive it if the sidewalk's in good condition.
Got it. Okay.
And that's happened in the past.
Frequently.
Yeah, Counselor Albright, and then Leary, and then Gordon.
So I'm wondering, do you have any idea, Commissioner, about what percentage of the people who ended up doing sidewalks over the last couple of years would have been helped by this particular modification? Were most of them not doing the total exterior walls and the roof?
Most of them were not doing that.
Most of them were not. Okay, so it would have helped a lion's share of those people.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Just be aware over the past 2 years, we have waived a number of sidewalk replacements as long as the sidewalk's in good condition.
Okay. Counselor Leary?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to be, I think this completely makes sense, first of all. And although for the full demolitions, I've rarely seen a sidewalk that hasn't been pretty significantly damaged. But it's good that you still have that waiver system in the instances where there was no damage. But I also see damage from trucks pulling up on sidewalks too, you know. But I had a question about how do you define damage, and if it's a long sidewalk, say they have a lot of frontage and just one portion is damaged, do they still have to replace the whole sidewalk? I mean, how does that work?
Just the damaged portion.
Just the damaged portion?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify. It's the damaged portion, but it's also if the existing sidewalk is not up to code, then they're going to have to replace it, correct?
No. If they fall with under that 50% threshold with the exterior walls, they will not have to replace it unless they damage the sidewalk.
But if it's over the
structure.
50%, either way, you're going to have to do it because it's,
They do have to do it, yes.
yeah. Okay, Counselor Gordon and then Grossman.
Well, I thought you might have been asking this, but this is if there's a sidewalk. I mean, if there's no sidewalk, then there's no requirements?
If there's no sidewalk and you trigger the ordinance, you do need to put in a sidewalk and granite curbing.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Good, okay. Counselor Grossman, then Kelly.
Okay, so my question is essentially the same as Counselor Gordon's question. But I don't know if I'm satisfied. So I'm thinking about a bunch of properties in Ward 7 where there's no sidewalk. The sort of angle of the property down into the street is treacherous. There are massive tree roots. Like, what happens in that case?
We go out and inspect it. We determine if a sidewalk is even feasible in that location. And we would waive it, especially for the trees.
At what point does the waiver process occur?
When they've, at the point where they would be installing the sidewalk.
So in the case of a developer, they're obviously more in tune with all of these different rules. I guess I'm sort of wondering a little bit more about the clueless homeowner like me who gets to the end of the project and then is like, what? I need to apply for this waiver. So I guess I'm just wondering how clear is this up front?
So if you're doing this type of renovation or demolition, you at that point have hired an architect, and you're pulling significant building permits, you will be told that you need to replace the sidewalk.
In the permit pulling process?
Yes. Or put one in, yeah.
And so I assume if someone were to go, someone's architect / contractor were to go apply for the permit and this information came back, at that point, they could consult with your department sooner rather than later to find out what this is gonna entail. Okay.
Remember that they're also replacing or having their sewer and water line inspected as part of this. That is part of the requirement of this ordinance.
Okay. I mean, I trust that, that is usually a pretty smooth process. I guess the only thing that makes me a little nervous about it is that I'm not always convinced that architects and contractors who are coming to City Hall are always immediately flagging that kind of information in a timely way to the homeowner who is proceeding down this project and making their interior choices. And so I don't know. I guess if I am not an expert in this by any means, and if this is the right solution, I'm happy to support it. That's just something that worries me a little bit.
I just want to say your gut is right. I mean, the three of us who have experienced this with our constituents, it's because the developers didn't tell them. Maybe they knew, but they didn't tell the owners. And at the end of the project, they were told.
Yeah, I mean, I lived through an almost 2-year process where a lot of things felt like surprises because the flow of information to the person who ultimately has to pay the bill, isn't making it. So that's my concern.
So this is not going to capture home renovations. This is essentially any demolition where it's a much, much larger project. So if you were remodeling the interior of your home, you would not be required for this ordinance to put in a new sidewalk and curbing.
Sorry. Button pressing game going on over here. I totally understand that. And in the majority of cases, I imagine it works out that way. I don't know what situations you guys experienced, but I don't know. I have less faith in the communication process than you do, and I will leave it there. I don't have anything further to add.
Counselor Kelly.
Back on, thanks. Just following up on Counselor Grossman. Yeah, I've seen this too in the last few years, and it is even with an experienced architect who wasn't aware. So the good part of this is that it's up front and this confusion this lack of communication should not happen in the future. I've talked with homeowners and architects and builders who have been shocked to have to do this. And because we only have a piece of the ordinance up there, I'm assuming that there's the wording in here about the inspection and the waiver possibility. It's in there somewhere, rather than just be, okay. Because that needs to be a written part of this so that they're aware. Whether, I think Councilor Damoved's question was my original one, like, what if they don't damage the sidewalk? And though I think that is rare for a big project, it might be occasional, and for them to know up front that if, maybe it's worth their while not to damage the sidewalk, depending on how expensive that's going to be to replace and curbing later. So that's all taken care of in here. Good, thank you.
Councilor Getz, and then Gordon.
Make is that I've actually had a constituent that had this issue, and it was more about mission creep, meaning project creep, that the project actually got bigger and bigger and then triggered the ordinance. And that's how they found out that they in fact needed to install a sidewalk. But I actually think it's a benefit to have this piece of ordinance posted. You know, it should be one of the documents that ISD, you know, reference people to right away, so that they understand that this is a possibility.
I will double check, but I believe it is part of the new gov permit
is it?
process and that it is readily
Okay.
available.
Great.
Councilor Gordon, and then Albright.
Yeah, I don't want to take us off topic. I'm just occurred to me, what about when utilities are doing work on the street and they're cutting through things that are wrecking your sidewalk and your curbs that residents pay for? I'm sorry, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I'm just curious if there's something to address that.
They should be repairing them.
Councilor Albright.
For a whole other reason, I've been spending a lot of time in Somerville's website, and they have an amazing website. If I need a permit, what do I need to do? I mean, for every permit you can imagine, there's a page in the website about what do I need to do? What do I need to think about? And I would love to show it to you, Commissioner, but I would even love it more to show it to ISD, because it was so complete and so thorough and so informative that I think in answer to Councilor Grossman's question, it really gave the homeowner a lot of information right at the beginning. So I will share the sites with you and Commissioner Ciccarello.
It would be timely. I believe that we're working on a website
Yeah.
So Commissioner, I did notice the other 29158B that you're trying to clarify here, the, oh, no, right there, yeah, there.
That's not a change. I'm not sure why it's highlighted. He may have moved the numbering.
Oh, it's not a change? In the
No,
blue?
they are required to do
Sewer and
sewer and water.
Water service? Okay. Now, on that, it says when a dwelling or building is substantially remodeled. What does substantially remodeled mean? Is that over 50%?
That's over 50%.
Should we put that in there?
I can ask the law department.
Yeah. Or is it, I mean, it doesn't say substantially remodeled above. It says new building is
It
constructed
doesn't.
or 50%.
It's further up the page.
Oh, it is
There's
further up?
yeah.
Find?
What?
Go up, scroll down, and you can see substantially remodeled or rehabbed. Right there.
Okay, great.
That's
Thank you. All right. Any other questions on this? Is there, oh, Councilor Albright.
So are we ready to vote on this tonight?
Yes.
So I guess I'll move approval.
Okay. All right, Councilor Albright has moved approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. And we are done at 9:35. Thanks, everybody.